10,000 elite enemies against one student. That was the death sentence the school handed down to Leon Carte. The teachers laughed in the observation room. The students turned their eyes away, unable to watch the slaughter. Everyone thought Leon was finished, because the system, rigged by his own teacher, had sentenced him to die. But they didn't know one thing. Leon wasn't locked in there with the monsters. The monsters were locked in there with him. Let's rewind. It started with a single sentence that shattered the peace of the classroom. Leon Carte stood up and demanded a transfer. The room exploded into chaos. But the person who panicked the most was his homeroom teacher, Mr. Lewis. Lewis looked at Leon like a starving man looks at a feast. Leon's performance lately had been God tier. If he stayed, he was guaranteed to hit a top-tier university, and that meant a massive cash bonus for Lewis. But if Leon left, that money would fly right out the window. Lewis forced a smile onto his face. It looked like cracked plaster. He apologized. He begged. He promised to tilt all the class resources in Leon's favor. He lowered his head, desperate to keep his golden goose. Lewis turned purple. This wasn't just a rejection. It was a slap in the face in front of 40 students. Naomi Shu, the grade director, stepped in. She laid down the law. You can't just walk out. You have to pass a test. If Leon could survive the school's combat trial, he could leave. Leon accepted immediately. But the nightmare for Mr. Lewis was just beginning. Clara Shaw stood up. She wanted to take the test too. Lewis felt his sanity snapping. Leon was a potential genius, sure. But Clara, she was already royalty. Top 5 in the grade. A wealthy family backing her. Losing Leon was a loss of potential profit. Losing Clara was a financial disaster. Lewis tried to guilt trip her. He played the victim. Clara cut him off instantly. She was bored. She was leaving. Naomi Shu approved it. She wasn't going to fight a powerhouse family like the Shaws. Then, the final nail in the coffin. Albert, the class monitor and Lewis' own loyal lapdog, raised his hand. He wanted to leave too. Lewis sounded like he was about to cry. Albert was in the top 10. He was supposed to be the teacher's spy. But Albert had a secret crush on Clara. If she moved, he moved. He wasn't going to let some other guy steal her in a new class. 3 top students. Gone. Go. Naomi Shu glared at Lewis. Losing 3 aces in one day proved he was incompetent. She ordered him to follow her. Lewis walked out of that room like a dead man walking. School ended, but the pressure didn't. Leon tried to teleport home, but Clara blocked his path. She demanded answers. She wanted to know where his hero lifeform came from. She claimed he owed her 150 divine power points. Her terms were simple: pay up or become her slave. Leon looked at her like she was insane. 150 points? That was nothing. He offered to pay 5 points as interest, just to shut her up. As for the hero lifeform, none of her business. He vanished, teleporting to his divine realm before she could scream. Back in the safety of his domain, Leon got to work. He had a war to prepare for. His last battle had been brutal. His locust swarm was decimated. The magma bomb locusts, his heavy artillery, were down to a pathetic 30,000 units. With this weak force, tomorrow's test would be a suicide run. Then, a prayer reached his ears. It was Ironcut Gale, his 4-armed hero. The hero sensed the escaping wolf cavalry, enemies from the last war hiding in the mountains. He asked permission to hunt them down. Leon had a better idea. Dead wolves were useless. Sacrificed wolves were power. He ordered Ironcut Gale to capture them alive. Hours passed. The clock ticked toward midnight. Leon stood before his altar. He piled up millions of locusts and the captured wolf cavalry. He triggered life sacrifice. The energy surged. The wolves dissolved into pure vitality. The system spat out 3 rewards. Option 1. The Alpha Mech, a combat machine rivaling a demigod. Option 2. A level 1 Great Furnace blueprint. TAR, capable of forging faith equipment. Option 3. 3 watchtowers. Leon hesitated. The mech sounded incredible, but his main units were mindless insects. Who would pilot it? A locust? Useless. The watchtowers were garbage. His realm was flatland. He could already see everything. That left a furnace. But why would a god of insects need a blacksmith's forge? Then he remembered. The prisoners. The 800 dwarves he had captured from Bryce King. Leon cast his consciousness to the mines. He expected to see miserable slaves. Instead, he saw a paradise. The population had grown to 900. They weren't just digging. They were crafting. Swords, hammers, axes. Piles of weapons lay ready for their god. Leon was confused. He scanned the memory of an elder dwarf. The truth was heartbreaking. In their old world, under Bryce King, they were forced to be soldiers. They hated war. They loved to build. Bryce had tortured them for that love. But here? Under Leon? Leon ignored them. He let them dig. He let them eat. To the dwarves, this wasn't slavery. This was freedom. Leon made his choice. He selected the Great Furnace. He gifted the blueprint to the dwarves. The reaction was instant. The dwarves fell to their knees, weeping with joy. Their faith skyrocketed. They converted from casual believers to zealots in a heartbeat. Leon smiled. He had found his logistics division. But logistics wouldn't save him tomorrow. He needed an army. He spent the rest of the night spamming the breeding acceleration. He needed numbers. The next morning, the faculty meeting was a Shark Tank. 12 homeroom teachers sat around a table. Mr. Lewis was the bait. Other teachers mocked him for losing 3 geniuses. Lewis sat there, face twisted with humiliation and rage. He blamed one person, Leon Carte. If Leon hadn't started this rebellion, Clara and Albert would have stayed. Lewis slammed his hand on the table. He demanded revenge. He proposed rigging the test. He wanted Leon's difficulty set to level 10, the maximum. The other teachers did the math. Leon was strong, but he had no family backing, no money, no politics. He was an orphan with a bug farm. Crushing him would make Lewis owe them a favor, sacrificing one poor student to gain an ally. Easy choice. One by one, they voted. Agree. Punish the traitor. Level 10. Only 2 teachers refused to join the lynching. But it didn't matter. 10 against 2. The verdict was sealed. Leon was walking into a meat grinder. The test began. Naomi Shu watched nervously as the students entered the pods. She saw the data cards. Clara and Albert received level 1 cards. Their mission: defend against 1,000 enemies. A walk in the park. Then she saw Leon's card. Level 10 mission: defend against 10,000 enemies. And not just any enemies. Random generation had selected the worst possible matchup. Naomi tried to intervene. This was murder. Lewis smiled a greasy, victorious smile. It was a democratic vote, he said. Naomi fell silent. She couldn't overturn the board. Leon looked at the card. He looked at the 10,000 number. Then he looked at Lewis. He didn't panic. He didn't beg. He just stared with cold, dead eyes. He knew exactly what this was. And he decided, right then and there, that he wasn't just going to pass. He was going to make them regret being born. Leon entered the pod. Clara whispered a final offer of slavery. Leon ignored her. Albert glared with jealousy. Leon ignored him. The lid closed. The simulation started. Clara and Albert finished in minutes. Their elite units wiped out the 1,000 weaklings easily. They stepped out, expecting praise. But nobody was looking at them. Every eye was glued to the main screen. To Leon's screen. In Leon's divine realm, the sky turned red. 10,000 red goblins poured through the gates. This was a disaster. Red goblins were elite units. Worse, they had high fire resistance. Leon's strongest weapon, The magma bomb relied on fire damage. His enemy was literally immune to his best attack. In the observation room, Lewis laughed out loud. He's dead. It's over. Those goblins will burn his realm to ash. The battle began. 2.6 billion locusts rose like a black tsunami. It looked terrifying. But the red goblins just opened their mouths. Thousands of fireballs launched into the air. It was an extermination. Locusts didn't just die. They evaporated. Hundreds of thousands burned every second. Leon didn't flinch. He sent in the suicide bombers. 5 million explosions rocked the front lines. Smoke cleared. Only 400 goblins were dead. The rest were just angry. Leon played his ace. The magma bomb. Locusts. They dove into the enemy ranks and detonated. Lava flooded the battlefield. Any other army would have melted, but the red goblins waded through the lava like it was warm water. They took damage, yes, but they didn't stop. They marched toward the core. The teachers shook their heads. It's hopeless. Insects can't beat elites. He should surrender. Naomi Shu messaged Leon directly. Give up. Live to fight another day. Leon's reply was short. I haven't lost yet. Iron-cut Gale stood alone before the horde. 4 swords. 4 arms. A whirlwind of steel. He was a hero. He was magnificent. He cut down goblins by the dozen. The ground around him became a mountain of corpses. But there were too many. Fireballs smashed into his armor. Blades cut his skin. He was bleeding out. He was exhausted. He was one warrior against an army. 5,000 goblins lay dead, but 1,000 remained. They surrounded the dying hero. They charged up their fireballs for the final volley. Lewis pumped his fist. Do it! Destroy him! And then, the ground shook. A horn blew from the forest. Not a bugle. A war horn. The lead dwarf screamed. Protect the god. 900 voices roared back. They hit the goblin flank like a freight train. The goblins were tired. The dwarves were fresh. It wasn't a battle. It was a massacre. Hammers crunched skulls. Axes split shields. The red goblins, the terror of the test, broke in seconds. The observation room went silent. Dead silent. Lewis' jaw hit the floor. Dwarves. Since when does he have dwarves? And why are they so loyal? That gear. That's high-quality steel. On the screen, the last goblin fell. The dwarf elder smashed its head in. Victory. It was a Pyrrhic victory. The locusts were extinct. The dwarves were decimated. Only 54 left standing. Iron-cut Gale was one breath away from death. But the core was safe. Naomi Shu's voice trembled as she announced the result. Leon Carte passed. The pod opened. Leon stepped out. He looked tired, but he stood tall. The room shifted instantly. The teachers who had mocked him 10 minutes ago now swarmed him like vultures. Leon, come to my class. I have insect resources. Leon, forget them. I can upgrade your dwarves. Leon, I have a scholarship for you. They smelled talent. They smelled money. They forgot they had just tried to kill him. Leon looked at the desperate faces. He turned to Naomi Shutoy. Why was my test level 10? The room froze. Naomi sighed. It was a vote. Show me the votes, Leon said. Naomi projected the list. 10 names in red. 2 names in green. 10 teachers who wanted him dead. 2 who had stayed neutral. Leon turned his back on the 10. He looked at the 2 teachers who hadn't stabbed him in the back. He didn't ask for apologies. He didn't ask for excuses. He looked them in the eye and asked the only question that mattered. If I join your class, what are you going to pay me?